Ready.
Jay Baba Falu. Hi, Nick. Welcome to my shop. I have taken the trouble to make a scale model of what we're planning to do for the garage for viewing of the DeSoto. This is about a 1/4 inch to 1 foot, quarter scale model, and it's approximate. It's not going to be exact. It's just a model. It helps me doing this and drawing the plans, helps me to think through the whole process. And this is kind of like a proof of concept. So this is, if pilgrims arrive on the bus and they're walking on their approach to Mondley Hall, this is the wall that's on the left. This is that concrete column. And of course, the doors to the garage would be on this side. And this is the concrete column, the corrugated metal, the roof, the beam, and the beam coming out. And then of course on this side there's another beam and another set of corrugated metal. So here's the idea. Nick suggested having these panels be hinged and open up like windows. So this is how, in this version, they open up. First I have to unlock the security bolt from within. And the first panel would lift up like this, and then there would be like a little latch so that could be affixed, and it won't fall down while people are doing the next step. And then the whole thing can come up and provide for viewing. And there can be any number of means of holding this up. It could be like that. It could be, we could make it so that it looks like that. Or we could even make it be all the way up. And as I built this model, I realized that we don't actually need 2 flaps here. This could be joined as one piece. And we just really need hinges. Oops. Here. Sorry. So we need just really hinges here and here. And then, of course, these hinges want to fall down with the weight, so we would have to basically close that and then just secure the security bolt on the inside, and that pretty much keeps it back in a plane. Speaking of the hinges, I'm suggesting that these hinges here and here both have to protrude from the plane of the steel. This hinge, the pivot point, has to be at least 1/2 the distance between this surface and the front end of the farthest protruding beam. And the reason is, if you have a hinge that's with the pivot point far in front of the surface, then you can see how this actually drops down before it comes out. So that way, you can see here, I have a very little clearance between this panel and the beam. So there's not much there. And then here's what happens. You can see, because this pivot point is farther forward, it still pretty much clears with plenty of room. And of course, that would not clear at all if the pivot point was at the surface of this plane. So, on the inside, I'm suggesting we make each panel with hardwood teak or something, and the dimensions don't need to be any bigger than 1 1/4 inches thick and 3 inches tall. They could actually be just 3/4 of an inch thick, because we're going to use half-lap joints where each one of these connections will be fully overlaid and cut into the one above and below and glued together, so that this whole piece becomes like a truss. And it will be impossible for it to bend or move this way or laterally. The thinner the material, the more exposure we have to bending or twisting. And I thought 1 1/4 inches might be the appropriate thickness to obviate that issue. And if it does happen, we have methods to overcome it in the future. Of course, we will need security, so we've got the typical slide bolts that you have, like on the bathroom doors. We'd want one on each side. And I think that's about it. So then on the outside, let's go back to that. I'm gonna open this up again. And again, I can think of 3 different ways to hold this up at least. There's probably at least 4 or 5 different ways to do any of these things. And we can sort of decide on the best as we take apart the material and see what's going to work. So I'm suggesting that the tree has to come out, of course. I'm suggesting we remove the planter and allow people to approach closely. The existing corrugated panel that's embedded in the footing, the concrete here, and it's embedded in the column over here, I think we should just cut that maybe 3 inches away and let it remain embedded. And then these sheets these come out farther than the sheets on this section, so there's plenty of room for them to shift that way to overlap the steel sheets that we leave over on the column. So they will sit above them, forward of them, and cover them. Similarly, if we have 2 different operating panels side by side, we'll have to leave maybe 1 inch in between them just for clearance because the material's old and not perfect. So I think we will want to probably put a nice piece of wood surface behind the panels so that they have something smooth to land on and to cover up any holes that, for security and for weather. And again, the panels are shingled so that this one will overlap the little lower one, this one will overlap this one will overlap, and probably they'll overlap where the natural surface, the curve of one, will be overlaid by the one above so that they, prevent water from being able to wick in. And that, again, is allowed by having the pivot points be forward to allow for the lower one to sweep out from underneath the one above, and then it can slide back underneath to create the layers for making it weathertight and secure. And I have got a whole bunch of square-headed bolts so that we can affix the corrugated panel on top of the frames that we have. We'll just use the square-headed bolt, so that will be in keeping with the aesthetics of Meherazad. And then on the inside, we'll put a washer and a nut, and then cut the bolt off so that it will be very clean and finished looking. All this wood would be painted, all the wood of the frame will be, of course, the Meherazad green. And if you like, we can talk about, making it look like it's old and hand-hewn instead of fresh and crisp like it's from, from a machine shop or something. These are the hinges that I'm proposing that we use for at least some of these. This is about 8 feet wide, so we will need at least 3 hinges, maybe 4, and they will be sticking out from the surface of the corrugated steel. They're going to have to stick out about like that. So the corrugated steel will have to be, as it is here, cut out just a little bit to provide for the hinge to come out. But it's only going to be about that much, and these could be painted too.
Could you show on the side how much it would be?
On the side.
No.
So they would come out.
Yes, like that. Thank you.
So on the top, they're going to have to, if this is a wall, they're going to have to come out by probably this much, and the lower ones probably only have to come out maybe that much. So that's the idea. It was very helpful to think through everything by doing the mock-up and by doing the plans, and I hope you'll look at the plans and see what you think about the details and give me any feedback, and we'll be ready to go as soon as the plane touches the ground. Jai Baba, look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.